What's up, everybody? I'm Katie,
And I'm Morgan.
and this is For Your Misinformation. We are two Midwestern feminists here to break down the political news that you need to know without the misinformation that you don't.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, Nick.
Hello.
Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day when we are recording this. How are you?
All is going great here. Just plugging along.
I'm glad.
As mad anymore because we're going to have a new president by the time this comes out.
That's true. This is the last Monday with Donald Trump as president. Hopefully. I mean, 2024, 2028. Who knows? We got some shit to fix so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, he'll be gone, but there's still a lot of more work to do.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's been like a weird adjustment to switch from like, oh my God, everything's going to break and not be fixable to like, oh, we have the potential to fix a lot of stuff, but we have to do it really quickly or else, I don't know, things are going to get a lot worse than they were on January 6th, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We thought it was all gas, no brakes before, but now we're just continuing, but on the offense.
Right. And it feels weird to be on the offense, but I like it. So I read the new Indivisible guide last night. Do you want to go through it for like our listeners so they don't have to read it? You guys can read it if you want to. It's only 30 pages. I'll put it in our little link tree, but we're going to go over what's in it so you don't have to if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so first and foremost, we have a new president now, and we also have the first time in 10 years, we have a Democratic trifecta. Mm-hmm. We have control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. So it's really a good moment to lead and fight for the big progressive measures that we care about and enact a lot of bold policy changes. So this new Indivisible guide talks about how to really lead on the offense, but also give specific things that we want to do in the first year. And that's really the timeline we're working on. We only have 1 year to pass all these measures because about a year from now in 2022, we'll be thinking about people getting reelected, unfortunately, heading into the midterms. So got to do as much as we can in this first year.
Yeah.
The first big buckets of things that we're working on are really under the umbrella of democracy reform. And there are a few bill numbers I'm going to throw out, so you don't have to pay attention. But the most important pieces on them are doing things like H.R. 1, the For the People Act, which, among a number of other things, is really all about voting and restoring faith in our electoral process. Mm-hmm. It has anti-corruption measures. It takes big money out of politics. It requires anybody running for federal office to release their tax returns, and lots of other great stuff too.
Is DC statehood in HR 1?
No, that is a separate bill, which will likely be...
Oh, it's HR 51. Never mind.
Yeah, 51st state. Fingers crossed.
Got it.
Yeah, HR 1 is great. It also would restore voting rights for people formerly incarcerated. So at the federal level, that would really make a huge impact and give more faith in our democratic process.
Yeah, well, it's a shift towards more equal representation. Like, it's not Democrats trying to grab power. It's a shift away from the Electoral College, which has like racist implications. It's the right thing. All of these things are the right thing to do so that minority rule doesn't continue any longer than it already has been. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you would think that having people vote would be a bipartisan issue. Unfortunately, Republicans know the only way they can win is if they keep voter suppression their main strategy this whole time. Right. So we definitely hope that some Republicans will find their spine and do the right thing in this case, but we're not holding our breath.
And it doesn't matter because we have, like you said, the Senate, the House, and the presidency.
Yeah. In theory, we don't need one Republican to pass any legislation, but there may be some people who choose to step up and do the right thing in the moment.
I will welcome them when they show up. when and if.
Yep. So that's HR1. HR1's really great. It may be released by the time this comes out on the House floor, but definitely that's going to be on the agenda in the first 100 days with the Biden administration. DC statehood is also really important. There are so many reasons that we need to make DC a state, but first and foremost, they have a population that is higher than the state of Wyoming, and they have had no voting representation in Congress ever in our country's history.
But they're being taxed.
They are being taxed, and for a while when Obama was president, he had the license plate on the presidential caravan, like taxation without representation, which is
that's right,
the entire motto in DC. So adding a voting representative to the House, 2 more senators for DC really balances things out, and it is even more important because DC would be the first plurality Black state in the country. There's about 700,000 residents in the district right now, and again, they've had no voting representation. The insurrection happened, and there was the vote to impeach the president, and the delegate from DC couldn't even have a voice in that moment when their own city is being stormed by white supremacists. So,
and they can't. Wasn't there something else like they couldn't call in the National Guard because they're not actually a state or something?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't realize being from actual states that DC can't do in their federal district type of thing. Yeah. But also remember that there's so many racist implications of why DC exists in the first place, is that over 200 years ago, there were people that tried to storm the Capitol then in Philadelphia, and they decided we need to make a federal district where we have absolute control. And that's how it is. So to really get on this path of racial equity, we have to do all these measures, and as soon as possible. I mean, it's 250 years too late.
Yeah.
But the step in the right direction. That's DC statehood. There's also a measure that is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, HR 4. And that also is very important on restoring voting rights and access to the ballot. It kind of goes hand in hand with HR1 in a lot of ways, but you might remember the Shelby versus Holder Supreme Court decision from a couple years ago where they said racism doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. That's a thing of the past. We don't need these protections anymore. There's no discrimination. A Black person has been elected president. We're good to go from here on out.
Yeah, and duh, right? It's totally, yeah. So anyway, HR1 covers a lot of those big democracy reform pieces, expanding access to the ballot. HR4 is similar in a lot of ways, but it specifically looks through the lens of racial justice issues and voter suppression. So it reinstates a lot of those things we refer to as pre-clearance, which was eliminated by the Shelby versus Holder Supreme Court decision. And it requires any changes in electoral practices to be approved by the Department of Justice or the federal court in DC. There's a lot more steps in place so people can't just unilaterally kick people off voter rolls or close polling locations in a city center.
Yeah.
So that's got to be approved too. And chances are that'll sail through the House and Senate, since we have a very slim majority in the Senate now.
Yay. Oh, can I bring up? All right, so you're even younger than me, but when the Tea Party was coming to power, I wasn't paying attention. I think I was just yay, swimming. That's the only thing I paid it. I don't know. I paid attention to politics a little bit. I was old enough to vote for Obama the second time. I went downtown with my dad. The first time we were very excited, but then I stopped paying attention. And
the Tea Party came to the suburbs here.
What?
Michelle Bachmann was going to do an event in Homer Glen. So any Chicagoland people listening, that is right next to where I'm from, my beloved Orland Park. And She ended up canceling because I don't think she was going to have a crowd at
Hmm.
the Denolfo's banquets. But I was totally all in because I wanted to see the clown car unfold. Um, so that was like 2012 or so.
Yeah.
Um,
So we're kind of copying like the Indivisible Guide and like was created by former DC staffers, and they saw what the Tea Party did. They were really effective at keeping Obama's legislation from doing anything useful. I mean, sorry, I don't want to say that like the Affordable Care Act is not useful, but they certainly like engaged in a lot of bad faith arguments and came to a lot of gave a lot like Democrats gave a lot of concessions that made it a lot worse. And it like I don't know. Nancy Pelosi like nailed it afterwards and was like it was a really good trick. Like they pretended to be interested and they weren't interested. Like they weren't negotiating or anything like that. So we're trying to do what Tea Partiers who are mostly driven by racism to do. We're trying to do that, but in a way that's like holding people accountable and like working for democracy reform and good things instead of like blocking and being obstructionists. Is that a good summary of the Tea Party and like what we're trying to do in the next year?
Pretty much, yeah. We have to do big transformational change to restore faith in our democracy. When you look at a lot of the stuff in place now, there has not been really any progressive immigration legislation since the DREAM Act.
Mm.
And when you look at COVID relief, who's cut out a lot of those stimulus checks? It's people that are undocumented.
Yeah.
Looking at the healthcare system, it's like the country has one map. We can tell very clearly who's not getting access to healthcare, and it's people in certain parts of cities and people in more rural areas, and that's really just been the status quo forever.
Mm.
We can't just sleepwalk this moment. We have a Democratic trifecta for the first time in a decade. This might be the only time where we can really pass any legislation that can directly improve people's lives. So I don't want to hear about time to heal the country and end the divisiveness because like
That's language abusers use. Like that is like no, accountability is absolutely the only option right now. Otherwise, like this kind of abuse, which is what Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing to the government and us, like that'll just continue. That's the kind of logic that abusers use. So no, we dismiss it.
yeah, it's like listen to the idea of like, yeah, sure, it would be great to have everybody get along again, but we're playing hardball here. I don't need anything from Mitch McConnell because he has not cared about us for however long he's been the majority leader in the Senate. Well, now he's minority leader, so haha. We're going to lead in the moment. We're going to fight for these big progressive agenda items. We have the Congressional Progressive Caucus, who is a voting bloc that can make a number of bills better, add amendments to make them even stronger, and we just have to get working for the people again.
Yeah, I'm excited, but also nervous. I texted you this last night when I was reading the Indivisible Guide. I was like, this is making me very anxious because there's a lot of reforms in there. There's like a lot of stuff that we're trying to get done. So it's a little bit intimidating. It does include a calendar, which I thought was very useful. Like, here's what we should be talking about in March. Here's what we should be talking about in April and May. So that makes it feel more manageable. And I know that at least like the progressive voting bloc, like definitely gets it. And I don't know. I just hope that they can convince people like Nancy Pelosi and more moderate Democrats who like, again, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I read something yesterday that made me realize, like, oh, he always warns against the white moderate. Like, Nancy Pelosi is a white moderate. Like, kind of like, and most of Congress is. Like, there's only like a handful of people in Congress who I would say are like actively working for racial justice. Mostly Democrats, but not even. So, like, I don't know. I wish there were more than two political parties, but I guess that's an argument for a different day. There are bigger problems that we have to fix right now. Okay, what else is... Oh, do you want to talk about... So you obviously know my Congresswoman is Marie Newman. Not everybody gets to have somebody as cool as that, like even within Illinois, there we have like the full spectrum, and people's uh, behaviors over the next year, like we have to pressure them. I don't know. I think Marie Newman's probably going to fight for this stuff no matter what. I think who's like a less cool Democrat in Illinois in the House or Senate, I guess.
Raja.
What district is that?
Um, Raja Krishnamurthy is Illinois' 8th district, which covers some of the north suburbs.
Okay. So Raja is probably going to need pressure from grassroots, like their actual constituents, to say, like, hey, Marie Newman is working on HR 1 and HR 4. Like, we need you to be on board with that. I mean, I don't know. They probably will be anyway. But there's more progressive stuff that they're going to need, like, I don't want to say to be bullied into, but like, they're probably going to start feeling cold feet, and then they're going to need some pressure from constituents. So it kind of depends on who you're represented by in Congress, whether you have like a Republican or a conservative Democrat, a regular Democrat, or a progressive Democrat like Marie Newman. I guess you could probably even divide Republicans a little teeny bit more by the ones who have come out against Trump, like Adam Kinzinger, but I don't know. So how should people react? How should people act towards their congresspeople based on like what their congresspeople's ideology is?
Well, always remember that your congresspeople and anybody who holds elected office is accountable to you. You are really the person that got them there in the first place, and especially if you help them in the electoral process getting elected. Mm-hmm. So I think we said in our first Indivisible guide, the best thing you can do for your representative is make them scared. Be loud, be obnoxious, call their office daily. Whether they're a Democrat or Republican, progressive or a QAnon person, let them know that they have opposition if they are not in support of a lot of the measures we care about.
Yeah.
Because even if they don't support things like HR 1 or HR 4, we can outwork, outlast, and outorganize any of those Republican far-right conspiracy groups. We saw the insurrection a couple of weeks ago at the Capitol, and just know that that is a very small minority. They have the megaphone right now, but we have been laying the groundwork with just Indivisible for the last 4 years. And many people have been doing grassroots organizing for decades, some their whole life. And with a lot of the coalitions we can build, we are truly unstoppable. And in this moment, with all the big progressive things we're fighting for, it's not as exciting as working on an election where you have an immediate goal in sight, where you have to win. These policy things are relatively simple to boil down. It's a question of values. With things like democracy reform, do you want to be more inclusive, or do you want people to stay home and have a dictator run the show? Because we almost had that.
Mm-hmm. It was super close.
We're hanging in a balance. I saw a poll the other day that says like 75% of Americans think democracy is under threat right now. So that's what we're working with. And so these democracy reform pieces are supposed to be bipartisan. Practically every Democrat in Illinois supports HR 1, HR 4, and a lot of the other measures I talked about. But we need to make sure it gets through the Senate pretty quickly, because we have that very slim majority. We need every Democrat on board. And then, if any Republicans want to join our team, then, we'll play nice.
Because you're right. It's a matter of values. It's the right thing to do. I should be less concerned with how I think people in Congress are going to respond with it, and more concerned with making it popular because it's the right thing to do, and we're the boss of them. So
I don't care if Raja feels uncomfortable that he's getting called all the time. He should be.
Yeah. Okay, good. What else did we want to... do you want to talk about the QAnon congresswoman from Colorado? We heard some breaking news as we were recording.
So Lauren Boebert is a fun QAnon supporter from Colorado. Mm-hmm. And apparently she gave a large tour to some people prior to the insurrection a couple weeks ago.
I've heard that rumor going around, but I think it is now like official
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
that's a thing that happened. She didn't she also like tweet the location of Nancy Pelosi? She's like a literal domestic terrorist, and she's in Congress, and she believes conspiracy theories. And people who believe conspiracy theories are prone to believe other conspiracy theories. Really, they're sad about and worried about a chaotic universe that they can't control, so they'd rather come up with a conspiracy theory. And then we elected her to Congress, where she won't go through metal detectors, even though there's a literal coup. I don't know. There's so much more to this lady. I cannot wait to find out more. But yeah, holy shit, she doesn't deserve to be in Congress. And neither does anybody else who vote. Oh, our dog is home. He just got his nails done. And neither does anybody else who voted for the coup after the coup. Or for the, what's the best way to put that? Who voted to investigate a conspiracy theory that led to the coup after the coup?
Voted against certifying
Right.
election results with the will of the people.
Right. Start with Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, and then get the rest of them. Like Adam Kinzinger, you can stay. But know that if Danny Brzezowski runs again in 2022, I will be volunteering for her. Okay, so you mentioned that the last time that we had a Democratic trifecta in Congress and the presidency was a long ass time ago. Why did that go away? Like, should we expect that to happen again?
Well, Americans tend to have a sense of overcorrecting. We elect the first black president, and it eventually led to Trump, but that's also what sparked the Tea Party. So, yeah, 10 years ago, we passed the Affordable Care Act. We did some other great pieces of policy, and then we lost the House because the Tea Party really was able to mobilize a base that was angry, and they organized them in an effective way that they got people like Michelle Bachmann elected. And really just led this big fight to go against anything that the president wanted to do then. And so we are pretty much anticipating that to happen again. We know that there is already a sense of white anger, especially with white supremacists. And the question is, like, can they mobilize in an effective way? And you're kind of seeing it with people that are QAnon conspiracy theorists elected to Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, I mean, the list goes on. Mm-hmm. But that's not enough, because it's not just people at federal office. It's people that are at county level, city, town, village. They're everywhere. So, yeah, we're anticipating this backlash, but the thing we have to do in the moment is really lead.
Yeah.
Continue to organize, continue doing this work, even when there's not an election in sight, because here in Illinois, we do have suburban elections in the spring. There are people that are running for trustee and city council and mayor, and all those things are really important because those affect your day to day. And continuing to do that work at the local level is really how we stop these moments, because you're so plugged into your community. And that's what's so great about organizing, is even if you drive through areas, you have so many stories where you can just talk about different people and business owners, and things that are really on the ground. The thing that the white supremacist groups don't have is that ability to relate to people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We are the coalition builders. We are the bridge builders. We want to build bridges with not walls with people. We want to meet them where they are. And so that's how we continue to fight against this moment. And since we have this progressive agenda that we want to get through and all these legislation, we just have to convince people that these things are good. These policies that we support are popular. They are widely accepted.
Yeah, you're right. It shouldn't be that hard of a job. They are popular. They are the right thing to do. Also, democracy reform will protect against that backlash, because it will mostly be a backlash from white conservatives. And those, I guess this part isn't as exciting as running, but like these are the changes that will actually make people's lives better. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. The other part that of the guide that I just really liked was the way that they put, like, we can't keep playing a rigged game and expect a different result. And that the reforms that, like, people have been so strategic about this. Thank God, because I've been panicking about Trump, but people have been smart and, like, thinking ahead. And these are the structural reforms that we can make, like Joe Biden and Congress can make right now. Like, you can't overturn Citizens United. You can't eliminate the Electoral College without constitutional amendments. And that's fucking hard. If it wasn't, we would have the Equal Rights Amendment would have been passed a long ass time ago. So, like, yeah, overturning Citizens United would be amazing. Eliminating the Electoral College would go a long way for fixing structural democracy problems. But those are really, really hard. So, like, put those in the future, way down the line, when we, like, let all Black people vote and don't purge them from the rolls on the regular. All right, cool. Well, are you optimistic?
I am feeling good. I really trust that we have strength with the Progressive Caucus. We can pass a number of these bills pretty quickly. And yeah, we have a new president and vice president, and it feels great to breathe for the first time in 4 years. They're not perfect, but they're the best we have right now.
Yeah, they're like a real shot at fixing stuff, which feels great. I think I'll probably skim through the Indivisible Guide one more time because it had some stuff in it, like, that never really occurs to me. Well, I guess it does now. But, like, writing a letter to the editor, like, that's where you're gonna find people, like, that I'm not going to reach on this podcast. I would say definitely that, like, local newspapers, probably their readership probably skews conservative. So, like, that's just like a tool that you have to pressure your member of Congress. Like, they want to know what's in their local newspapers at home, and writing a letter to the editor is probably really easy. Like, I bet there's a handful of people that are looking at or listening to this like, oh, duh, like, I could definitely do that. And that there are probably people in your community having, like, such a hard time finding, like, real factual misinformation, because after this, can I ask you about the fairness doctrine? But they're just like little sponges that want to absorb, like, how the people in their community, especially the ones that are, like, plugged in and informed, like, how they're really feeling about what's going on in their community. And, like, a letter to the editor can totally do that, especially if like I just Marie Newman was at a train station within walking distance of my house talking about, like, what she's been doing the first, like, week and a half in Congress or whatever. She said she's doing okay after the domestic terrorism, which is nice to hear. She's very resilient. I think so. I didn't actually do this, but I was going to send I took a picture and you took a picture and I was going to send it to one of the local newspapers talking about what Marie Newman was doing, because I don't think Dan Lipinski ever did that. She's been, like, stopping at, like, several places in her district every day to just, like, talk to the constituents, and she's the best. That's how everybody should be. But yeah, like, a letter to the editor about how, like, nice that was, or, like, what, I don't know, just in support of her would go a long way. Just like if you live in a district like Adam Kinzinger's, well, all right, don't pick on him. If you live in Darren LaHood's district or Rodney Davis's district, if you live in Bloomington Normal, shout out. Write to the Panagraph and stuff about how they're enemies of democracy. Like, there's an I don't know, I lived there for a long time, but, like, there's kind of an echo chamber. There's just definitely, like, this conservative tinge to everything. And that's, like, encouraged by Fox News. There's so many reasons, and social media, all the things, but they would definitely respond to a letter to the editor in their local paper, is all I'm trying to say. So I would like to go back and skim through the Indivisible Guide, and then, like, talk to my Indivisible group, like, especially our little steering committee, and say, like, these are the things that are in there that are, like, effective for pressuring our members of Congress. Like, who wants to handle press releases? Who wants to handle this? And trying to, like, streamline our stuff. That's what I think I would like to do in the next, like, week or so. Tonight. Well, tonight is The Bachelor. These episodes come out on the same day as The Bachelor. I can never watch The Bachelor live because my Indivisible meeting is at 7 on Mondays.
Just got to get that meeting.
It's the worst part of my whole life is that I cannot watch these and participate with these Bachelor group chats with you guys. But I did go back and read as I was like watching it like a week late, and you guys are funny. You really stressed me out with it because you were like, do you want to do like a Bachelor bracket? And I was like, okay, sure. And you were like, okay, here's a spreadsheet. It has tabs. It is color coded. I need you to figure out all the rules and submit it by 7 p.m. And okay, it is fun, but like, oh my God, you stressed me out a lot with your type A spreadsheet.
It's good stuff. If anybody wants in, send us a note. We give points for who gets the first rose, who cries while sharing emotional trauma,
That's my favorite one.
who goes home, who steals the Bachelor more than twice in an episode. Oh, yeah, good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hopefully, by the time this comes out, hopefully Victoria goes home.
Maybe, but like producers love to keep people like Victoria around.
Yeah.
I could barely watch last week's episode with Victoria. I just don't know, why does she act like that? Like I can't. It makes me so uncomfortable to watch. Who's winning? Who's winning our has it been a week?
So far, David is tied with my sister for high score.
Okay. So I'll have to step it up. I did watch the whole episode this time. I only got to see half of it last time, so watch out.
Mm-hmm.
I have great insights about these very insecure women. Matt is so dumb. Matt is so dumb and so boring.
Yeah, well, his response to like everything is like, "You look amazing. This is so great." Like, there's no substance. I think that's why they focus on his body so much because he's got nothing to say.
Probably. It's so disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, okay, so the problem is too, is that like he seems like a good guy and like he probably is fine. And I guess we'll see. I'm definitely not going to stop watching. There's so many just like little things where I'm like, ooh, he judges women who like don't act exactly the way that like he deems as appropriate. He talks about religion a lot, which I think is a little like just my old therapist would call it an amber light. It's not a red flag yet, but it is something that you should pay attention to see if it turns into a red flag. That's my take on them. I think MJ is fun.
Mm-hmm. MJ's okay. I like her.
Abigail was nice. I didn't really.
You can do like way better than him.
Oh, okay. Before we go, do you have any thoughts about the fairness doctrine? I think I'm probably going to do a whole episode about it because I've been really interested in it lately, but it seems good to me. Why would we not bring that back? Misinformation spreads like 6 times faster than regular information.
So basically, our stance on it is that it can't apply today. It's because of, so the fairness doctrine applies to like broadcast media. There's too much cable news now that it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Like, if they wanted to have misinformation all day, then they can just tune into Fox News.
Yep.
So there's probably like a way to address it, but fairness doctrine isn't the way anymore.
Okay. So like an updated fairness doctrine, a new fairness doctrine. That's okay. Another complaint about that nice lady that, followed, I don't know if I talked about this last time. Her name's Sharon McMahon, but her @ on Instagram is Sharon Says So. And she provides like the most legitimately unbiased current event breakdowns that I've ever heard. But stuff that I don't like, and like so infrequently do I come across stuff that I don't like, but she talks about Fox and is it CNN that people think is like the equivalent of Fox on the left? Is it? I can never remember the like letters of broadcast channels. They're all the same to me. But like there is no Fox News on the left. Like Fox News is not news, it is opinion, and it's opinion by mostly racist people. Like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham are garbage humans, and they're not required to stick to facts because what they're doing is opinion and not news, and there is no equivalent of that on the left. So I don't like it when people make those equivalencies, but I guess just keep in mind that's my complaint. All right, Well, I guess I should let you go on with the rest of your day. Anything else you want to talk about? Tell me what you're doing for self-care. And don't say running this time. That's not relatable. More. The last time you were on, we were talking about QAnon and Satanic Panic, and I actually got engaged the next day. I remember that.
I can't do running, I guess. I've been reading a ton. For anyone who's been following me on Twitter, you know that I'm very plugged into romance now. So a ton of romance authors have mailed me books.
Oh, that's so nice.
I just finished The Duke and I, which is a Julia Quinn novel, which is the basis for Bridgerton. So if you like Bridgerton and you want to read the book that it's based on, it's a whole series. Highly recommend. I have a book rating thing where I judge all the books that I've read all year, and this one was scored so highly on my chart that it's going to be on Nick's favorite things for 2021.
Aw, yay.
Very good stuff. Check it out. The Duke and I by Julia Quinn.
Okay, I might actually read that. I also highly recommend Bridgerton, and one of the reasons is because there's 2 scenes of him going down on her and no scenes of her going down on him, and that's the society that I want to live in. It's like, that never happens. Like, never. I'm so glad that, well, I don't know if that was like Julia Quinn's decision or not, but just like, yes, young women need to see that that is normal, and that's a hill that I will die on. So read the book or watch Bridgerton if you haven't yet. It was such a nice escape. Okay, well, thanks, Nick. We'll talk to you next time that democracy needs saving, I guess.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review.
It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FYMIPod.
Shout out to Ben Schlofelt for the audio production, Hope Dye for the podcast art, Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Adam Roston, who edits these videos every week so you can watch them on YouTube.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.